And we are back with another episode of Brento Cast. This would be episode 38. Today's date is July 11th, 2023, the birthday of my fabulous granddaughter, Delilah. It's an exciting day, but also, unfortunately, a sad day. As yesterday, my mother had a colonoscopy, and while we were basically, she got some high blood pressure, and after the having that whole day procedure, she went home and she couldn't breathe well. So we don't play around anymore at this point. After some of the harrowing experiences we've had in the past, when she starts having trouble breathing, we just go right to the hospital. So that's what we did. We went back and went to the ER. And while I was in the ER waiting for her to get her room, I heard a gentleman in there. He was concerned for his friend, who was not apparently showing up at work or answering his door or whatnot, and he needed them to check on him or whatever. So they were, advising him to go to get a wellness check on him. I recognized the name right away, and as I got home that evening, after they got my mom checked into her room, Nancy and I noticed the sheriff's deputies were at his house, 2 doors up the street from me, and it was my friend Mike Britt from high school and my neighbor. And unfortunately, he passed away yesterday or sometime last night or yesterday. And, obviously very sad. You don't hear me talk about Mike that much because I didn't have a whole lot of contact with him, although we were neighbors, and I definitely communicated with him from time to time about things going on the road. Back in 2019, we started talking again over politics and stuff like that. And then sometime later in 2020, his dog, basically, his dog Bella, kind of got in the habit of, going to neighbors' houses and just walking in the front door and sitting down, eating the cat food, dog food, whatever, and just chilling. And I was at home one day, and we had the front door kind of ajar, and she came right into our house. I didn't know her. I didn't recognize her. And I was like, hello. And she just walked into the living room and ate every bit of the cat food and then laid down on the floor to cool off. And it just kind of struck me as funny. And I really love dogs. I'm a dog person for sure. And I just thought, what a sweet dog. So we kept her for a couple days trying to figure out who who's she belonged to. And then we, figured out it was Mike and his then wife, Lori. And they came and got her. And, we started chatting over that and stuff. Well, as time went on, Lori and Mike split up, and originally, I guess he wanted to keep Bella, and he she moved away or whatever. Bella would show up more often, and we eventually, I don't know exactly, but I think maybe Lori told Mike that she took Bella with her to her new house in Norwood, and then turned around and gave Bella to us to take care of. And we loved Bella. We had her for a number of weeks, and she was fairly well house trained, so she was not a handful at all. Just very cool, and she's such a mellow dog that my big dog Cooper didn't have a problem with her. So yeah, it was fine. We kept her for a while, and then a couple of weeks later, I get an email or a text message. Well, actually, it was a Facebook message from Mike saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. So there was like a misunderstanding, and I really want Bella back. Is that okay?" I said, "Sure, man." As far as I was concerned, I was just taking care of her for you guys. I never really saw her as my dog, although we did really like her. So he came and got her, and then, a few more times she got out and came over. And then on another occasion, Mike, unfortunately, he was married like most of us in his early 20s and had a couple of kids with what seemed like a really nice girl, and they split up eventually. And on Facebook, though, his kids looked just like him, and I thought like he was kind of on track to have a similar life to me. Mike and I were friends in high school. He went to a different high school for the most part than I did. I think he might have briefly went to my high school for a few years and then switched back to the other. We lived kind of on the line of delineation between two different high schools. I was firmly in the South Stanley, and he was firmly in the North Stanley sector, but at a certain point, he went to South Stanley for a period of time and then back to North Stanley because Nancy remembers going to high school with him in North Stanley. But anyway, Mike, after that, seemed to have a I will say this, and I don't want to name people or anything like that, but when he was young, he had a much older girlfriend, and she seemed to be like much more world wise than him. Smoking and drinking and that sort of thing, like around 16, is not good for any kid's development, in my humble opinion. That's a great way to develop alcoholism, in my humble opinion. I've seen it happen to so many friends. And I know, like, upon a time, Mike told me that his older brother, had problems with alcohol, but I noticed that he straightened it out. And from what I ever saw, like, I always thought his older brother Tommy was just the coolest dude. For one thing, he had long hair, really long straight hair, and was into heavy metal music when that was like the super cool thing to do, and actually upon a time we actually crossed paths in a band, Tommy, Mike's older brother, and myself. But then, like, he kind of hit that age where he became a family man. Tommy, I'm talking about, and from as far as I know, everything went smooth from there on, and Mike looks like he was going to be on that track, and then he got off track at some point, and then a quick succession of girlfriends that kind of looked like they were in similar places in life. I don't know, but because I'm just speaking on what Facebook I could see on Facebook, but yeah, he seemed like to go through a series of relationships really quickly, and being neighbors for the last trying to think how far back, at least 10 years back, maybe more, when our older neighbors that lived in that house passed away. I think he got that house because it's right across the street from his dad. Anyway, let's go back and unpack this a little bit, because it's super sad. It's not even posted on Facebook or anything. I don't think anybody knows, but his ex-wife, let us know last night, because we'd had those dealings with him, what had happened, and like I said, I sort of knew what was kind of coming down the chute, because I was at the hospital when they were asking about him. But back when I was maybe 16, 15, 16, 14 possibly, I discovered that there was a kid right around the corner from my folks' house that went to a different school that was the same age, had similar interests, and somehow we got put together. So I had a basketball goal at my house, and he had a basketball goal at his grandpa's house, right in front of his house. So I would walk up there, and we would play until, in the afternoons, I'd walk up there after school, and we would play until sundown, and vice versa. He would come down to my place, and we would play until sundown. I don't think either one of those basketball goals are still there now. I know ours was not, but we had a lot of good times. And Mike's grandpa, Stud Sales, it should tell you something that the guy's name is Stud, but he had a real reputation for being kind of a hard ass. To me, he was always friendly, but he would come out there and make us stop playing basketball and go stack his firewood, which, Mike had told me that was going to happen, and we always just kind of thought it was funny, and we would do it, and he would curse a little bit, and we thought that was funny too. And years later, actually, Stud became a really good neighbor. He would come over and bring us vegetables from his garden and stuff, and it's ironic because he always thought we had this dog named Daisy, which we inherited from Jerry Boone, also now deceased, but a neighbor up the road, and he had a bunch of hound dogs, and somehow they kept getting out, and one of them kept coming to our house, and they never came and got it, and it became our dog, Daisy. This is when my daughter Summer was like probably 2 or 3, so she loved having a big dog, and there's pictures of her, and Daisy stayed with us for a number of years, and eventually I think she just ran off, but she would tend to bay at the moon, and Stud mentioned that. He said, "Oh, your dog sounds like music when they're over here, howling at the moon." And he never was bothered by it. And then years later, when Mike's dad, Robert, would start to kind of go down the path of having Alzheimer's and stuff, he got pretty cantankerous about that. And he came over, and he was a little bit ugly to me a couple times. And, that impulse as a man, when another man is a little bit rude to you and he's standing on your land and doing that, and early in the morning, your impulse is to, kind of to be a little harsh with him. But I always said, you know what? Robert is probably acting this way because he's, he maybe the dog woke him up or whatever. And my dad always liked Robert. And I generally, as a general rule, will not disrespect my elders unless I need to, like, level set them or something if they're being really out of line. But I said, Robert, I apologize. So the last conversation I had with Robert was, I said, listen, so you got a phone? I said, let me give you my number. And he took out his phone, and I called him. I said, look, this is this number's mine. Save that number. He acted like he didn't know how to do it. Maybe he didn't. And I said, you save that number. If my dog ever bothers you, call me. I'll come get her right away. And I'm just across the street, so it's not like I got to go to Norwood or nothing, right? But he's like, okay, whatever, and he left. And that was my last conversation with him before he got to the point where he couldn't, I guess, communicate with people outside the family. And the last time I asked Mike, how's your dad doing? Well, actually, I told Mike about that event, and that was back in 2019. And he said, yeah, he gets that way sometimes. And we carried on talking, but he told me the last time I asked about after his father that he said his words exactly were, he's gone to Alzheimer's, and that was really sad to hear. But my conversations with Mike, and we talked on the phone a few times too, were I could tell that that he was not the same person, either through bitterness or just he had a certain edge to him, and I recognize that edge. That edge comes from alcoholism, people drinking alcohol, and I would say there are a lot of people in the world that can handle alcohol, but for those that can't, man, you need to recognize that early and just stop leaning on it, because it will take you somewhere that you don't want to go. And I'm sure if you went back to 14-year-old Mike and said, Mike, you could not ever drink and you could live a normal life and a normal lifespan, and you'd have some good days, you'd have some bad days, but you'd have those days. Would you rather do that, or would you rather drink your troubles away, have a series of broken relationships, be estranged from your children and your grandchildren, and die at 53? I don't know anybody that would take that option. And that's why I really hate the glamorization of alcohol. If you just choose to drink alcohol, that's up to you, and I certainly play in places that sell alcohol. But if you ask my opinion, I'm going to say that it's better to not drink alcohol at all. I got plenty of friends that manage it just fine. It's not a problem for them. But I got 2 or 3 friends that it's absolutely ruined their lives. Mike, of course, being the latest. But I just felt like I needed to unpack that whole thing. But anyway, some of the funniest times that I ever had in my young childhood, teen years, early teen years, were with Mike. And I don't want to get too crazy with it, but there were a couple of times. Mike had what I would call a sardonic sense of humor. He would see sort of the dark side of things and then make fun of them, and he, like I said, he was the first guy that I knew to have a girlfriend. She was older and could drive him around, and, of course, you know what that leads to. And, you hear about that from the first kid. Oh, he's the cool kid on the block, having sex at 15, 14, and that all seems cool then. But the reality is it can set you up for certain kinds of relationships. Relationships where you aren't necessarily in control of your own emotions or guiding things to the benefit of yourself. And I definitely think that happened. I don't think it's a good thing for young dudes to be dating older girls, particularly girls that are world wise, and vice versa. Same goes the other way around. I wouldn't want that for my grandchild, or I wouldn't want that for my kids, and just bad scene. But not to dwell on the negative. Mike and I had plenty of good times and good humor, and there was a period of time before, Todd, who was really my main best friend through high school, kind of came into my life. Ironically, another person who alcohol has completely put his life off track, and I don't say that as an insult to him. I think he would co-sign that. And we talked recently, within the last 2 weeks, Todd and I, about his alcoholism, and he was going to have to stop or suffer the consequences. And he never protests that. He says, I know. And it's they get so far into it and they realize that they can't stop, and alcohol is so dangerous for people like that. And really, I don't know that it actually gives anybody anything good. I know people that use it for stress management, say that, it helps them relax or whatever. I'm like, you know what? If you were not breathing that, you'd be relaxed. So I'm going to fight the grave all the way. I want to live for this short time in this eternity that we are able to live. I want to live. I don't want to dull the experience. If I got a hurt, heart or a hurt leg or whatever, I want to feel that pain, I don't want to numb it under some useless beverage and, basically drug that's going to, mute my experience of life. And I've never been able to relate to alcohol. I really haven't. The only time I tried it, I got so sick, I was dehydrated for 3 days and felt terrible. And I thank God for that experience, because it really instilled in me that alcohol is not for me. And if you ask me, it's not for you. But again, that's for you to decide. I will relate this one story. It's tasteless. I'll warn you right now. If poo humor bothers you, you might not want to listen to this. One day we were playing basketball up at Stud Sales House, Mike's granddad, and we played until it was just about dark. Now, it's funny to think of boys being scared of the dark, but like in the corner of the curve at the bottom of Stony Gap Road, there's a lot of tall trees on both sides, and it literally looks like something from Tales from the Dark Side, the intro of that show. Very scary. When you get down there and it's dusk everywhere else, it is pitch dark down there. And neither one of us liked walking through that section alone. There had recently been that thing in Atlanta where that creep abducted all those young black children and killed them and stuff. And we were just like, we weren't about walking that by ourselves. So the deal was, he would walk around the curve with me if I was going to my house, and I would walk to the curve with him, so that you'd be in like the eye shot of the other while you're in that creepy part of the curve. I know that seems really crazy and silly to be scared of that, but we were for whatever reason. One day, I'm walking Mike home, and we get up to the point where I usually stop and just kind of let him, so I don't have to walk up the hill and around the curve, and just let him go into the curve himself, and I just sort of see him out to the other side, and then I turn around and come back home. And it's weird and strangely romantic, like something in a book, like that you would find, but anyway, that's what we did. So we get up there and we're almost to the curve, and all of a sudden Mike just he just drops to his knees holding his stomach, and he's like, I was like, dude, what's wrong? And he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom so bad right now. And I was like, are you okay? And of course I started laughing and just guffawing, man. Like I literally was about to choke myself laughing. And then he gets up and he's like, okay, I'm all right now. And we walk another 10 feet, and same thing. Oh, he has this, apparently he had something that didn't agree with him or whatever. And so I just had a great laugh, and he got home, and next time I talked to him, he's like, everything, I made it or whatnot. And so months passed by, the summers went so quick back then. We're playing basketball again. This time we're playing at his house. Time to go home. He walks me down to the curve, around the curve, and I'm taking off to go home. About the time we got to the place where he was supposed to stop, man, something hit my stomach. Like, I don't know if it had been food poisoning or something, but just that instant. And I actually coined, in that moment, the phrase flash diarrhea or snap diarrhea. Flash diarrhea, I believe it was. That you become diuretic instantly with no warning, and you just have to. It's all you can do to not have this explosion, right? And so of course he is laughing his butt off, and falling down laughing. Like I said, Mike was always quick with laughter, and quick with a joke and quick with a laugh, and he didn't mind laughing at you, which was as long as you could appreciate it, it was always a funny quality about him. And anyway, he couldn't take it. And then this happened to me, same as him. I'd get up, I could walk a few feet, and I was like, oh. So anyway, I go on, and when I get to the house, at that time, my mother had a beauty shop in what used to be our garage, and that was the first bathroom I would come to. And I get in the door, and I could barely hold it, and I run to the bathroom, and I open the door, and basically get my pants down and my rear end pointed in the right direction, and things did not come out the way I wanted them to. Let's just say they came out in an entirely different way, and it was a huge mess. And we laughed about that for years. But over time, we kind of when I got to the point where I started dating, girls and having a car and stuff, we just didn't really hang out that much anymore. He had that girlfriend who was kind of demanding of his time, and as long as they dated, we never really hung out much, and I'd see him here and there and talk here and there, but then I probably didn't talk to him for I looked back this morning when I heard he had passed, and I looked at my Facebook messages, and I know we started talking in 2019 again, and we were talking a lot of politics stuff and whatnot. He was politically aligned with me, so we had a lot to talk about. But I remember saying to him, "Man, let's meet up at Harmanco's for a meal. Let's catch up." I was like, I literally haven't seen you in 20 years. And he was like, yeah, I work this crazy schedule. I like the job, but it's like a swing shift, etc. And, other than the interactions over the dog and a few messages, we would talk about, once or twice a year. And so it wasn't like we talked that much, and we never worked out having that dinner together, and I really regret that. But I made the offer on a couple of occasions. I looked back through there, and, I don't think that I could have impressed upon him to stop drinking. I don't think I probably would have even said anything. I think he knew that it was a problem for him. And based on what we heard from his ex-wife, it was a bigger problem than I think anybody knew. So here he is, passing away at 53. Now, I don't know the cause of death right now, but my presumption is that essentially he drank himself to death, not intentionally, but that's what alcohol will do to you. I have another neighbor, guy that I always looked up into in high school, Lauren Jordan. I know in his case it was pills and booze, but I mean, he also basically, I think he made it to like 55, 56, something like that. Dudes, I mean, leave the booze alone, man. I don't think it does anybody any good. But I just wanted to remember Mike in a positive way, because he was not always this guy that was sad and angry and mean and cantankerous. And even in those texts, one of his girlfriends that passed through, in these years where he was kind of like faded with the alcohol abuse, she had a dog, and that dog would tend to stand right in the street. And I remember messaging him. I was like, "Listen, I'm not upset or anything. I just want I don't want your dog to get hit, And he said, "Oh, I'm kind of hoping she does get hit." And I thought, "Oh, that's just so mean, It's like basically talking about her being aggravating, the girlfriend's dog being aggravating." But anyway, I'm not sure. I got to figure out what happened to Bella. I guess she's with his ex-wife now, because she was a great pooch. And I thought it was kind of telling of how the duality of somebody that has alcohol problems, that he would go, when he found out that after him and his wife split, and the wife basically asked us to take care of Bella because she was getting settled in a new place, he basically was just, first he started off saying, well, she takes a certain kind of flea pill. Can I bring those by? I said, sure, man. Everything. I said, you can come over here and see her anytime you want. I'm not, we live 2 doors down. It's not a big deal. And he made a big to do about going and getting those pills and everything. And I was like, well, but you couldn't keep her up. She came over here. She was filthy. You obviously put her in a pen outside. It's like it just didn't track. It was like two different people talking to me. And then finally he says, hey man, I'm sorry. I really want Bella back. And I was like, dude, it's your dog. I'm just looking out for her, whatever. Come get her. And, but you could tell the two sides of him. One side didn't really want to bother with him, or maybe one side thought it would hurt the ex-wife or whatever if he took her back. And it was just the strangest thing. It's like talking to two different people, and I really think that's what happens when people become super dependent on alcohol. I realize a lot of this might be gibberish, to most of you, and I really wanted to focus today on the happiness of this day, because the greatest thing, I have this amazing granddaughter. She's 4 years old today. She is such a spark of joy in my life, and I feel like I must have done something to please God at some point, in all of my missteps. Somewhere along the line, I did something right, because I got to be her grandpa, and she's in my life, and it's amazing. And, spending time with her is just my favorite thing to do. And I'm super thankful for that. And that could have probably never happened had I chose alcohol back when I had the chance, to do that. Oh yeah, this is fun. Let's go get wasted. No, man, the real joy of life is being there for your family, and particularly your kids and your grandkids. And I really wanted that for Mike. I can kind of look back at the timeline when his ex-wife that he had the two children with was still tagging him, on Facebook. And he looked like a different person then, and he was a different person then. And then fast forward to his alcohol years, his face is like perpetually bloated. He looks like a different person. And life will do that to you as well. Obviously, I don't look as fit and thin as I did, back in the day. But I do not look like I'm suffering from alcohol. Man, alcohol and especially tobacco, God, that can just undo you. I really wish more people would kind of like look at the results of people that do that before you choose to go down that path. But, yeah, it's really, really sad news to hear that Mike's gone. But I won't get the chance to sort of recover and bounce back, and be who he once was, because he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, and he was my friend, and I'm gonna miss him. And I guess instead of going on talking about the plans for Delilah, there's actually a lot of other stuff that I haven't caught you guys up on, because it's been a hot minute since the last podcast. But I guess it seems right to go ahead and just cap this one off, and I'll come back with a podcast after Delilah's birthday party to sort of cover the happenings of that. She's very excited. We got some big stuff planned, and then we have a big project the week after that of setting up my aquaponics and also chickens at our house. So that's coming up if all goes to plan, and I think it would be best to go ahead and break those off. But for now, I'll just say, God bless you, Mike, wherever you are. Rest in peace, buddy. Brento loves you.
I hope you found that peace you ran looking for. We laid you down. I won't see your face anymore in the crowd, and I won't hear your sweet voice singing out loud. And I can't face the consequences now. Losing you, missing you. I hope you found that peace you ran looking for. We laid you down. I can't see your face anymore in the crowd. Singing out loud, and I can't face the consequences now. Losing you, missing you. Where are you? Turn my eyes up to the clouds. I can only hope I make you proud. With every word I sing, proclaim it loud. I'm missing you. I'm missing you. Shine a light on your soul in the dark. Oh, now that we're living far apart.